Thank you. Joining us now for more on the China crackdown, the latest there, and more. Republican Senator Rick Scott. He's also the former governor of Florida. And Senator, it's always good to have you on. You heard Eunice's report. We've got a lot to cover in terms of the debt ceiling and infrastructure and everything else. But what have been your recent thoughts on what's happening in China and how it relates to us here in this country?
Well, first off, excessive debt catches up with you eventually. It does as an individual, does as a family, does as a business, does as a country. We've got a lot of businesses around the world that have excessive debt. Evergrande does. It's going to catch up with them. We've got to get our fiscal house in order here. You know, we've got a debt ceiling crisis coming up right now. We have almost $30 trillion worth of debt here. But around the world, we've got to get control of debt. I'm going to do everything I can here to get structural change, because this excessive spending, excessive debt is causing significant inflation in this country, and it's hurting our poorest families, hurting people on fixed income. The Chinese government is decided, they decide what the rules are constantly. So anybody that does any business or invests with China, you're taking a lot of risk.
Looking at some of the things that President Xi has done in recent months, what do you think the pivot means in China that we're seeing to more? We know it's a communist country, but they have been flourishing for 40 years with kind of a hybrid capitalist model. They seem to be pulling back on that to some extent. Is that troubling for the global economy?
Oh, absolutely. But I think you should have always expected this. It's a communist country. It's run by a dictator. He's not a duly elected president. And so it's whatever he thinks the rules should be. So they're cracking down on anybody that's had success there. They're cracking down on companies that have had success there. On top, we know that they don't comply with any international norms. Haven't complied with the WTO. They've got genocide against the Uyghurs. They took away the basic rights of Hong Kong citizens. They steal American jobs and technology. So this is if you deal with the government of Communist China, this is what you're dealing with. You're taking a lot of risk, and Chinese are taking a lot of risk. I feel sorry for the people of China, wonderful people, but they've got a government that doesn't care about them at all.
What do you want to do with the debt ceiling here? How's that going to play out? You don't want to raise the limit. How do we make sure that we don't default on debt? How's it going to play out over in the near term?
Sure. Well, first off, we should not default on our debt, but we've got to get our fiscal house in order. $30 trillion worth of debt, hyperinflation, Powell buying all the treasuries. This just doesn't make any sense. So what we have to do is we have to stop wasting money. When I became governor of Florida, we were in a financial crisis in Florida. But over 8 years, I paid off a third of the state debt. We balance the budget every year, but not by borrowing money. Our federal government has got to say, we have got to live within our means. We can live within our means. We don't have to have this dysfunction and partisanship up here. Let's figure out, let's spend the money we need to spend, and let's save our money. The Democrats right now, they did a $1.9 trillion bill by themselves in April, and now they want another, I guess it's a $5.5 trillion bill, taking our debt to $45 trillion. We're already spending over $300 billion in interest that does nothing for a family in this country. We're going to take it to, $1 trillion a year in interest? How are we going to pay for this?